sometimes I'll turn the car on and it's just on a random radio station, and it's like blasting Ariana Grande. And I'm like, why is this happening right now? I don't understand. And there's so much of a delay in the boot up process for the stereo that you have to listen to Ariana Grande for like a whole minute or two before you can actually turn it off or set the Bluetooth.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Welcome back. This is my friend Josh, and this is his beautiful Alfa Romeo 4C, and we're going to do a little bit of driving and see what this car is all about. There really aren't that many of these around. You don't see them on the road, but they're not ludicrously expensive and they look awesome, so why aren't there more of them on the road?
Well, I think a combination of limited production due to the complexity required to make a car with a carbon fiber tub for under $100,000, and there's a lot of compromises to owning this car. You can't really daily drive this car, at least not while maintaining your sanity. So I think if you're going to own this car, it has to be a second car, which is immediately a hurdle for a lot of people, and accepting the unusual quirky nature of it as well.
When you look at this car, and if I were to ask you where it was made, you might already guess Italy. And that's because it shares very similar lines to some other Italian cars, these very wide wheel arches and these gorgeous flowing lines on the car. Like other Italian cars, we have very nice carbon fiber accents, the door mirrors, the intake on the bottom here, and even in the headlights is all carbon fiber. If someone were to ask you what powers this car, you might guess a V8 or a V12, but it's actually a 1.75 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine making 237 horsepower. This car is outfitted with a couple options. We have the convenience package, which gives you an upgraded stereo and the parking assist in the vehicle, but no backup camera, so no help there. And then we have the performance package on this car, which gives you some small little styling cues like the carbon fiber bits, the wing on the back, and the upgraded suspension. You might expect the interior to be as sexy as the exterior, and you are in fact greeted with some high-tech elements like the carbon fiber tub and the digital nav screen. But we're going to go ahead and get a closer look at the inside of this car, and I can tell you what it's all about. From where I'm sitting, everything is pretty straightforward. We have the radio system over here and the digital display in front of you, and then we also have the AC system, very standard, obvious layout. The thing that isn't quite so obvious is the drive select on this vehicle. We have 4 buttons. One button that is for reverse, one button that is for neutral. We have a button that says 1, which stands for first gear, and finally we have a A/M button, which allows you to transfer the car from auto to manual driving mode. Below that we have the performance mode selector, so we have an all-weather selection, a natural, which is just for normal driving, and then we have a dynamic mode, which firms up the shifts and makes the car a little more aggressive for track driving or any kind of spirited driving you might be doing. I'm gonna go ahead and start it up. Oh, and it's yelling at me because I don't have my seatbelt on. That's what that buzz is. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in first gear by pressing the right paddle. And now we're in automatic first gear. And we'll turn it around up here. Starting out, I'm in all-weather mode. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it in natural, is what it's called. But of course this test is a performance test, so we're going to go ahead and put it in dynamic. Now, there is one step above dynamic, and it's kind of hidden. But basically what you have to do is hold the dynamic button for about 5 seconds, and I believe Alfa Romeo Race is what it says on the dash now. So now we are prepared to do some fun driving. So one of the first things you notice when you get in this car is that it doesn't have power steering. There's not too many modern day cars that don't come standard with power steering. And maneuvering this thing around a parking lot is as you would expect. We have a small, thick steering wheel, and you have to muscle it. This car actually requires some muscle to move around. The only way that this car can get away with having no power steering is because it's so lightweight. As far as the seating position in the cabin goes, the seat is really stiff, but I'm not uncomfortable. I feel like I'm held in very nicely. Josh was mentioning to me that you actually have to take this car to Alfa Romeo to adjust the seat's height. I mean, sure, you could probably figure it out yourself with some wrenches and the right tools, but that's usually something you don't have to worry about in most cars. So this is the Alfa Romeo 4C with the racing exhaust. This is a stock option that you can get with the car, and it makes the turbocharger extremely loud. So anytime we go near the throttle, you get that glorious turbo noise. Not bad. I love the turbo noise. It just doesn't get old. Just, there it is. This car has a very linear acceleration. Once you get the turbo spooled up, which you know when it's spooled up because it's constantly shouting at you, it just goes. Brakes work nice. This car isn't made to go fast in a straight line. It's made to have fun on the track or in the corners, so that's what we're gonna do now. Corner here. That back end, a little tail happy there. This car offers such a raw feeling. You can feel everything in the steering wheel because it is directly linked to the wheels. And then the turbo. This car dives into the corners and exits corners so fast. It's a really enjoyable and satisfying experience. If I had to say one word to describe this car, it would be balanced. This car is extremely well put together as far as the driving experience goes. The cornering, the braking, the acceleration, it all culminates to create this very fun and enjoyable experience. And I imagine on a track this would be quite a blast.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. This car is so loud on the highway. Let's hope that when you take this car somewhere on a long trip, you don't like the person you're sitting next to, because you won't be able to hear a thing they're going to say. But yeah, there are a number of oddities, I suppose. You'll notice that the time in the center display here and the time on the stereo display are different. They're actually set differently because the stereo head unit is some aftermarket Chinese Android thing that comes factory that's not connected at all to the main dash display.
So you were telling me earlier that but when you do set the time in the center console and in the dash, they drift apart?
Yes, I would say within a week they're 10 minutes apart. The windows, they don't have an auto up, and they sometimes have an auto down, and sometimes it's just the passenger window. I think earlier we discovered the passenger window decided to go down fully by itself for some reason, so hey, I'll take what I can get. If you start this car without your seatbelt on, you will go deaf.
Yeah, it really does shout at you.
Yes, the seatbelt warning buzzer is a borderline obnoxious. I always drive with the headlights on all the time, day or night. I just feel like that's good practice for me. And the thing is, the cars, the dashboard display, it will go bright with the headlights off and it will dim with the headlights on. It doesn't have a sensor. So if you drive with the headlights on like I do all the time, you have to manually.
So it'll be dim like this.
Yes.
And then you actually have to manually. It does not automatically.
Correct.
It doesn't know if it's day or night. It only knows that you have your headlights on.
Right. Let's say you're driving at night and the dash display is on the dimmest possible setting, but you're just about to run out of gas. So the car is going to warn you and say your gas is low. The warning message on the dash display automatically puts it at the maximum brightness setting.
So you're blinded.
So you're driving along. It's late at night and everything is dim and you're chilling. You're running out of gas. And suddenly there's a freaking spotlight shining in your face, and not only are you out of gas, you've also crashed. So the car does have Bluetooth, believe it or not.
Okay.
There's 4 microphones here, kind of strategically placed above the mirror. It looks kind of like some kind of NASA arrangement here. They're a little bit dangly, not exactly high quality. And if someone actually tries to call you at any speed above about 10, it just sounds like you're chewing on a sock through a wind tunnel. You're not going to have a pleasurable conversation.
Right, because there's no button on the key to open the trunk.
Right, and there's no button on the car, on the outside of the car to open the trunk.
I think there's space on the key for them to put a button.
Probably. So if you forget, you're outside the car and you forget that you got to put something else in the trunk, you got to go back in the car, pop the trunk, back to the back of the car, prop it open, put it in there. So, it takes a little bit of, again, it's just about adjusting your habits around this very strange automobile.
Tell me about that one time that your car turned into a bathtub.
An Italian kiddie pool, yeah. So I came out, I used to park the car outside all the time before I had a garage. And one day I came out on a Saturday morning, I was going to take the car, I was going to wash it, and I think take it to a show. And I discovered about 1.5 or 2 inches of water pooled in the passenger footwell. I mean, literally like this much water. And so, of course, I'm freaking out, and I pull out the floor mat and I drain all the water out. I'm like, okay, that's weird. I start to drive the car and I can hear water sloshing around the front end. And I can feel it kind of splashing my feet as I'm driving around. And of course, I'm having a panic attack at this point. My car is full of water, so it's been 2 weeks at the dealership. And apparently some drain had gotten clogged with leaves or something, I guess from being parked outside under a tree. And it caused the car to back up with so much water that when I got to the dealership to pick the car up, everybody knew me as the guy that flooded the shop with his 4C. Because so much water, when they unplugged the drain, just came gushing out of the bottom of the car.
Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked that little bit at the end there. Please like and subscribe so I can continue to make more car reviews. Have a good one.